Hi folks, it's Christmas Day as I do this. Hopefully I can do this in one go because I was expecting nobody to be around as I walk the dogs. And I've already bumped into half the neighbourhood. Anyway, I think everyone does a Christmas walk. So if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas, or if you do other religious events this time of year, Merry whatever or Happy whatever. I don't feel like December. Quite mild. In fact, I could, with a pinch, go around in shorts and t-shirts. It's still that mild. Anyway, so let's see if we can have a chat. I've been meaning to do this for a bit, but just not got round to it. So I just thought I'd do an update. Now, I'm not sure, folks, if I'll be doing the same sort of content next year. You know, these protests, I'm a bit bored with them, and quite honestly, I find the Leeds ones got changed. You might have noticed I did Manchester, and to be fair to them, when I went the last few times, I had no problems. I know I had one guy sit a bit funny with me, but it was alright the week after. I think I've got a feeling he's seen the video and realised I wasn't pooping on anyone, I wasn't taking anyone's sides, just filming it. But in truth, I feel relaxed when I was doing the Manchester ones. I haven't felt like that doing the Leeds recently. It's got so unpleasant. That's why a lot of people have dropped out of the Leeds one. But so much has happened. But as I say, I take no sides in the protests. You know, I support your right to freedom of speech. It was interesting that Novo Media tried to do a hatchet job, and what the result of that was, and by the way, the West Yorkshire Palestine promoted it, so they supported it. The result of that was a lot of their supporters, I know their posts have been removed, but I screen grabbed a lot of them, went on to say things like how people filming the protest should be baseballed to death, I think one was, and wouldn't be ashamed if they're falling in the river. I mean, these were calls for murder. In fact, there were so many bad comments, I think they've all had to be removed out of embarrassment. Unfortunately, I screen grabbed them. Now, in fact, somebody even had to say, this is so offensive, people are just going to call us anti-Semites quite clearly. Can you not post these things? Which is a bit embarrassing when you're having to tell people not to post their thoughts and opinions because it's clearly they're anti-Jews. And after that, a lot of people said, you've done a hatchet's job. We were assaulted first, and the guy doing it, or whoever was running the account, couldn't defend their rubbish, so-called news. And people kept saying, well, no, you haven't reported correctly. And they were trying to do some wishy-washy, saying, but the gentleman stopped. It was rude to him, and people pointed out, yeah, but he used the flag as a weapon, I mean, people pointing out that people were shouting, calling me a Nazi, and saying I should be thrown in the sea to be presumably murdered. You see, they were very biased in it wasn't even biased, it was just a hatchet job. And it made Novo Media look as poor as anything, and people have said they're not taking any notice of them again. If you don't know what it's about, it's basically they try to suggest I targeted people and all sorts of rubbish. But unfortunately, I then re-uploaded the videos over and over and over. And people watched them and said, these guys are telling porcupines. See, the silly thing was, when you're telling people the YouTube channels, people then go check it out. They checked it out, realised what they were being told was rubbish, and that's that. Now, as far as the Leeds group goes, it's been an unusual. Well, I mean, you'll have noticed it's gone from a massive, massive, massive group to next to nothing over the last, well, it's been over 12 months. I can't remember how long this has been going. And you've seen a change. Now, you'll have seen up to when you saw Charlie Beach come that time I met him, I even said to him, this is a friendly bunch, you've no problems. And I think back then, he was pretty much friendly. But things have clearly changed. They've changed dramatically, as you'll have seen. For instance, well, I mean, a lot of people, where do we start? First of all, a lot of them have now got charges against them. There's almost each week an arrest. The behaviour by many is appalling. They just turn to violence. We've had, we had a guy convicted of assault against a Jewish guy. Now, they then clearly supported his beliefs because they made him not a supervisor, it's, what do you call it? Something like that. Steward, that's it, I always forget. I always remember it begins with S. And that shows that they clearly support his views. Hatred of Jews. There's no other question about it. Then another guy who shouts all Jews, and I won't say it because it'd automatically get the YouTube channel closed. It's that serious and offensive. They rewarded him by making him a steward. So again, they believe in hatred of Jews. They support that. That's no question now because they've done it twice. And then recently we've had that woman who's been charged of, she's been convicted, of a racist incident. And I think she's on the tag again, as in GPS tag. And they openly supported her by going, they got violent afterwards. It's very aggressive, this unpleasantness all the time. And indeed this week, I mean to say they're right wing now, there's clearly a section in this group, I don't know how many, it could be the whole lot. They're on par with Nazism, as in they believe in death of Jews. We know that because last Saturday, if you watch News Now Yorkshire's video, they were walking around shouting, there is only one solution, which is literally the reference to the final solution. Now, they'll probably argue it isn't, but we all know it is. It's literally that. That's not unmistakable, and considering that they support people who hate Jews, in fact, they even have them sort of thugs. I don't know if they hired them or what, but there was a few months ago, as you know, we was assaulted by these weirdo thugs who pretend to be anti-fascist, but they remind us, don't they, folks? They are very similar to the youth of the fascist youth of England or Nazism or whatever. They were stomping around, assaulting people who they didn't like, being intimidating. And then a few months later, one of the weirdo ones with the weird deformed head, I don't know, it's a birth defect, it looks very strange. Well, he threatened me, and then I think it was the following week, or was it a week or two later, he was on the protest, fully supportive of these people. Again, I don't know if they hired him. He walks past the Jewish chap who's in public. He's just sat there in a chair and shouts abuse at him, along with this horrible fatty in his flat cap. We've seen him before, I don't know what. He looks a bit weird. And he also shouted abuse. And then he then turns, and obviously this was a children's event, by the way, and in front of the children he does the masturbation hand sign, weirdo. Later on he then assaults me. These are, unpleasant people, clearly. To say they're not right-wing thugs is, well, how do you say they're not? That's what they appear to be. Now, that's what this group has turned into, in my opinion, a hate group. And a lot have left. I've said this over and over, and everyone knows, they listen to this, and, you know, I've been in contact. And by the way, these views are not my exclusive views. It's what people who are ex-members of this protest group have actually told me. They now view it as ridiculously right-wing, and they don't want anything to do with it. And apparently there's been a lot of infighting and hoo-ha. But now it's just, I mean, I don't think you can argue it's anything but a hate group. I'm not even sure it's got anything to do with Palestine. I think they're just using that as an excuse, in fact. I have a feeling once they've got rid of Hamas and the war is over, they'll move on to use something else. In fact, they already have done. In the last protest, they included another country. So you can see the aim isn't really about one particular thing. It's just about an excuse to protest for the Leeds group, so they can shout and scream as much abuse. I mean, it's an amazing thing to be able to get away with, to walk around Leeds city centre shouting the top of your voice, there is only one solution. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Now, a lot of these, by the way, the difference between what you see in Leeds and right wing, you see people these are meaningless statements, left wing, extreme left, extreme right. They're basically just hate groups with a similar thoughts. The traditional concept of the right wing in the UK or even America tends to be people who are white supremacists. Their argument is they just want a country to be pure. While the difference between them and this group is they also are supremacists, but they believe in a middle class supremacy. They don't just want, you know, their view is a hatred of the working class, which is why you'll always see over and over, not just us, but all the other, you know, anyone else filming or anything. If they view them as working class, they'll give them abuse automatically, call them all sorts of names. If they view them as middle class, they're welcomed. And we saw this with, most noticeably, the hatred they have for the working class was it Rotherham and a few other places where working class girls were abused. Didn't care, not a problem. That was acceptable. In fact, I think some MPs even said, and a few other people said, told them to shut up because it didn't matter, just allow it. They're not worthy of anything. Yet, we also saw, did we not, when that woman who was killed by the policeman, they all came out full force. You can see the difference because she was middle class. I guarantee it, 100%. If that woman was working class, I wouldn't have given her that sass. And it was a lot of that was show. They pretended to be upset. I mean, hang on, I'm just putting my... Sorry, I'm just putting my woolly hat on to keep warm. Sorry, it's probably going to fall off. If they start not bashing the mic, it's because I'm using one hand. Oh, it's falling down. Hang on, folks. This is just a bit awkward. So I've done this before. Anyway, that'll have to do for now. It's probably going to fall down. But yes, you can see the hatred they constantly have for the working class. So that is the sort of difference there. One side's more... they're all full of hate. I'd say these that claim to be... I mean, I'd argue as left-wing, but I don't view these people anymore as left-wing. I view them as nasty, fascist. And they all... I mean, obviously, they'll come out with a... rubbish, they'll pretend that they're not, but I mean, if you notice, they're actually now following the German socialists of the 1930s beliefs. Now, it's quite clear that there's a lot of people now who are openly... Sorry, hang on, let me just put this hat on. Let me just do this properly. Sorry. They're openly anti-Jewish, but you know what I mean? And you know what I mean? But they've conned a few Jews into supporting them. patsies, I would call them, but that's up to them. It's their right if they want to walk alongside people who clearly talking about the final solution, as in the only solution, and the river to sea reference, which in this group context is clearly the annihilation of the Jewish state. Now, what your belief is about Israel and Palestine, that's your personal belief. I'm not going to give you, I'm not bothered what your belief is. I'm just not going to accept hatred towards Jews or anyone. Hatred towards Muslims, hatred towards Sikhs, it doesn't really matter. Whenever I see hatred, that's straight down. And people hide behind this fictitious pretense that they're good people because they're middle class. It's a bit like the Labour MP not so long ago who, well, I won't never kiss a Tory or something. And how we see a lot of middle class. I always giggle when I see, well, not giggle, I find it sad. I'm amused when I see people who say in their bio they're anti-Tory, as if that makes them a good person, that they hate groups of people. You don't have to be a conservative or believe in the values, but to actually hate somebody, be anti them, that is just hatred. That makes you a fascist and a horrible person straight up. There's no question about that. Anybody who you see talks about hatred of any sort isn't a good person. I mean, we saw it even recently, how a lot of these so-called socialists are buzzing off that guy who murdered worked for a medical firm in America. They want to make him a saint. They're buzzing, but you see, this is the ideology of the socialist mindset, or these fake left-wing, or whatever you want to call them. They believe in murdering people that they don't like. They'll keep telling you that, this time if they're bringing communism, whatever, it'll be different. But no, it's not, because they're now fully openly admitting they're into, celebrating, encouraging people to murder people they don't like. And that's what happens in all these weird fascist, socialist, weird things. The German socialists did it in the 1930s, murdered millions. USSR murdered millions. They just carry on. It's what they believe in. Execute, cruelty, forcing their beliefs on others. So why don't go along with it? I mean, people say, am I a socialist? And I go, no. Never would I go down that lines, because it is the truly horrific. It's never about. I know people say, read up. They try and bluff it off by the. They argue there's a little difference between the German socialists and USSR, whatever, or their beliefs. The ideology is simple: hate, power, greed, control. That's all it's down to. The rest is fluff. You can go through every group and you'll see differences, such as the German socialists. Well, a lot of that was built on their belief in Germania and restarting Germania, and how they'd viewed America take over land, and, they wanted Germania back. And there's all these little nuances. Oops, I'm falling. But the essence of it is power, fascism, whatever. It doesn't really matter. You can call yourself whatever you want, and we have to be careful. Just because people call themselves left-wing, that we've allowed hatred to go unnoticed in many ways, and so we have this strange group in Leeds. And don't forget, many of them, they're now spending more time in court than I think they have on protests. It's bizarre. And do they support? It was like the woman who got done for racism. She was back in court. Well, I'm not sure they were there for support. There were 5 of them. Were they there for support, or did they just want her not to plead not guilty? I don't know. It didn't feel like they were there as friends. And I've noticed this group, they don't seem to be friends with each other. It seems to be all about control. This unpleasant atmosphere. They don't seem to trust each other. And I've heard this from the infighting. I've had a lot. A lot of people tell me this isn't going on, but I know behind the scenes people have told me an awful lot, because people are in contact with me. They've actually said if I, named them, they probably wouldn't be alive. That's how they live in fear of these groups. But yeah, I mean, the bizarre thing, wasn't it, was that woman who's in prison. I think she's been charged with a few things. They haven't released her, which was a surprise. I was expecting her to be released, but the judge went no, no, no. And she's done 6 months so far, and how many people supported her? Apparently one. I mean, you'd be fuming if you spent all that time. And these are the people they think these are their friends. A lot of it is down to this phony friendship thing. They all think they're friends with each other until they find out they've got zero support. If only one person turns up for your car, it shows you phony. But that's up to them. I mean, perhaps they sat there. I don't care really. If you're daft enough to, I better not talk about it because obviously it's an ongoing case. But yeah, it's. I just don't enjoy doing these protests now in Leeds. It's just unpleasant feeling. I did for a bit up till about some. It seemed okay, but it was when they brought in these bother boys and everything went downhill and people started to leave and it all fell apart. You know, these weirdo thugs that, the fatty who rubbed himself against me and then bulby head. I mean, they're weird looking people. I mean, of course, if you can argue everything I've said is rubbish, and that's fair enough. I mean, I have people tell me I've told lies about things, but they never tell me what part. I mean, I had somebody, it's like, I think, was it Novo, that news thing, or one of them? I think they said I was doing a live chat and telling lies. What did I lie about? I never gave my views on anything. I used to chat to people. The comments were about the weather, or if somebody came up to me, and again, I have, if you start being funny with me, I'm funny back. I don't think, except for people I know. I mean, if I know people, I'll go up and chat to them as a friendly thing, don't I? But, when it comes to people being funny with me, it's always them who start first. Just like the York students. And if they were honest, they'd have said they did, but people watch the videos and they can see for themselves. I put everything out, and the beauty of doing it live is it's not edited, But again, I mean, it's things that get unpleasant. Things like you saw it the other week when News Now Yorkshire's, you'll know him. He was assaulted by one of the women, but then she started running around, and people believed her that he started on her. But fortunately, I'd recorded it all live, as well as on another camera, so you could see actually what happened. And the problem is, when they start telling porcupines, when do you believe them? I mean, it's there's been a few, I won't go into it because I think the case is ongoing, but you can judge for yourself. Well, we better not talk about them. It's just a very unpleasant atmosphere these days. I don't like it. As I say, so will I be doing these protests? I don't know. Maybe I will to support, News Now Yorkshire, and Marty, simply because part of me thinks I'll just tell porcupines, and they need the evidence from me, in case they get accused of things. But I honestly hate going now. It's unpleasant. And I've felt like this. I mean, I was talking about quitting a while ago, and then I came back, but they're pretty much, I mean, you've seen them. I mean, I think what sort of got to me was when I started reading posts from some of the people on the protest saying, oh, we should, how they believe that we should have our heads caved in with a baseball bat. And you just realise what, that's what represents. And it was interesting they had them removed, but I made sure I screen grabbed them and posted them on Twitter and stuff, so people see. But it just shows. I mean, I do think now we're in a situation where some of the groups have turned to hate. They're just hate groups, purely. that I actually would question if they even believe in the Palestine thing. I think it's just an excuse. I've started to, I think at first a lot of people did, but they're the ones who quit. And now I think it's just been replaced by, people who pretend to be left wing, but I don't think it's even a secret now. I mean, once you start shouting, and because nobody silenced this person, it was like the other week when somebody started saying Jews are eating babies and putting them in sacrifice. Everyone went along with it. That was open. No one went boo. So everyone there must have supported that ideology. And when like this last Saturday, where people are walking around, full on, saying the final, not the final solution, but there is only one solution. That is a reference, and I'm not interested in wishy-washy. No, it's not. It means something else. No, it doesn't. We know what that means. That is a reference to the final solution. I mean, you just wouldn't say it otherwise. Anyone with a brain cell wouldn't say that. In case, if you're in a pro-Palestine group and your belief isn't things like that, you'll be careful about what you say. But to actually openly shout that without any fear of the police, well, I don't think the police were around with the folks. That's what we've got. Now, it's, we talk about two-tier police. Well, that's the other point, isn't it, folks? You've seen how many times I've been assaulted, including the time, it's about 6 months, must be longer, outside Leeds Uni. Nothing's happened. Yeah, if, they're very jumping up and down when, it's one of us. That's when it becomes vitally important. I mean, this is embarrassing for the police, because I don't think there's any, question that there isn't a two-tier or possibly a three-tier policing situation. The main one was the incident, and I won't go into it because obviously it's ongoing, but something happened outside Leeds Court. And again, instant reaction from the police. Oh, by the way, you might notice when I was assaulted and reported it, I was told it was tit for tat. Or threatened with my life. Tit for tat, that's acceptable. So, all these things become... In fact, a policeman saw me get assaulted by the Bulby head. Again, nothing happened. Tit for tat, it's acceptable if it's us, apparently. It's why I've given up reporting things. People said, do you report things? I go, can't be bothered, waste of time. Because this is the system, by the way. If it's us, we get told, we can't look, they don't look at the videos online. That's not acceptable, sir, because they're hoping you've deleted the original and they can't be bothered. So then they say, you've got to upload it on their website and stuff. And then, it's just wishy-washy, nothing gets done, we'll make a part. There's way, the Leeds one. I've just got to this stage. I no longer expect anything to happen. And I even say this to people. People have been assaulted and I go, why bother reporting it? It's a waste of time. Because I don't presume anything will happen. It's why I don't think, and it'll be interesting, even though what happened at Leeds Court was incredibly serious, I've got a feeling nothing will happen. Zero. But we might be wrong. Look at the wishy-washy letter that was accepted when it was sent to, after weeks. I think they were supposed to do it almost instantly, but, and it didn't even feel, I suspect a solicitor wrote it, because it was worded in a way to blame News Now Yorkshire, and the person writing it was trying to suggest victimhood, and it sounded very much from the prospect. I don't think she even wrote it. I think someone else. I might be wrong. It was just the wording was slightly unnatural. Almost felt like it was written by AI. AI write me an apology letter that doesn't sound like an apology letter, that blames the other person. Boom, and that's what they got. And so it's all a bit, naff, rubbish. But again, can't I be bothered? I'm fed up of them, and I think people are fed up. Oh, by the way, you might have noticed one thing. At the beginning of this, and I've said it over and over, anybody who wanted to on these protests were welcome to come up and put forward their views. I wasn't going to question them. I said that. Not one person has. People prefer to just walk around Leeds or wherever shouting, to the river, to the sea, whatever. I mean, the other side of this in general, not the Leeds one, but I've watched a lot of interviews on TV, and people have questioned people and said, do you support Hamas? And it's amazing how many people can't say no to that. Because, it's starting to look like a lot of these things are supportive of Hamas. And I think, well, I don't know, it's tiresome, isn't it, folks? But the reality, and this is the reality, is that I've said this all along. I mean, I don't think protests do anything. I think worst is, I think in this case, what I'd argue is these protests have done nothing except turn the public against them. I think they did have some support at the beginning, but I think the way people have acted, harassing people. I mean, what did they do a few weeks ago? The stupidest thing I've ever seen, and I don't think they did it. I think the plan was to do it over and over, but I think they dropped it because the original post did suggest they were going to carry on doing this, but they seem to have stopped. For those who don't know, they're that thick, the ones from Leeds. They went down to a children's Christmas event, and I think it was the Coca-Cola one, which is it's a children's event if you don't know. And they stood outside screaming and shouting, and the parents just flipped, got angry. Well, what's that supposed to do? This is just arrogance of stupidity. That's not a protest, that's harassment. It doesn't turn the public against you. I mean, there's this sort of belief that they can go around and harass people and it's going to force people to do what they say. Well, probably does. I mean, there's a bit of a, they boast about forcing shops to not sell Coke and stuff as if this is some sort of win. They think because of the harassment, they win by harassment, not by heart. When you win by harassment, you don't win. You have to win people by heart, and the problem is these protesters haven't understood that. They believe that harassment, abuse, violence. In fact, I was just watching again, this is over a year, this is after months and months, over a year of protests. I saw a bloke, again, they surrounded him, harassed him, and the public are watching this, so what do they think? Who do we support? Of course not support them. And all these so-called pretend fake socialists, they're now looking like they're the thugs. They're not looking like the nice people. All this anger. It's literally from a PR point of view, what they're doing is the worst sort of PR you could imagine. Because it's literally the way you turn. If I was going to say, you were going to come to me as a PR firm, and you said, how can we turn the public against us? I'd say, do what you're doing now. Because this is literally the greatest way you can turn the public against you. And it's so bizarre. I sit there and I often thinking, is this done on purpose? Why are these people so openly trying to destroy their own cars? But then you realise, folks, this isn't about Palestine in a lot of cases. It's literally about the ability to scream and shout hatred towards Jews. Things like, it's an amazing way, as I say, to shout the only solution as a reference to the final solution. You might as well just shout, final solution, kill all Jews. Why not? We know what they mean. And I don't think the police will do anything even if they did. I mean, at what point do they do anything? They're allowing it, they just sit there. It's just ridiculous. So, Anyway, God, I thought I'd bump into people. It's a good job. Oh dear. So as I say, I've got to a stage. I'm not interested in doing these protests anymore. Unless maybe the odds one or two. I might do. I might do to support News Now Yorkshire and Martyr. They sound like they're still, although, I do wonder. I think people aren't as interested. I mean, I've watched people's views. People aren't watching these vids that I put up. They're not interested. It's boring. Even the supporters, pro-Palestinian supporters have drifted away. And it's interesting since the summer holidays. I was expecting it to get busy and it's just died off. I mean, you saw the York ones. Do I think they were pro-Palestinian? No, I think they just wanted to go round, scream they hated Jews, basically. And they apparently, I don't know who it is, they claimed I targeted a Jewish person. I don't know if that was a male person or a female. There was nothing there, but that's their... I've sussed this out. They get these Jewish people as a patsy to say, oh, we're not really anti-Jews. Look, we've got one with us. It's like saying my best friend's black. That's the attitude. And perhaps they've got no friends and it's a way. I mean, it's like in Leeds. We had a few Jewish people in the protest. And it'll be interesting to see if they carry on. Are they going to be still patsies for when people are walking? Are they going to justify somebody screaming, one solution as a reference to the final solution? Are they going to stand by as they're making people who are screaming Jews are very an unpleasant word? Are they, and they make them a steward? Are they honestly going to turn up? Because if they do, to me that's embarrassing. I mean, that really is. Oh, by the way, there is one thing. I have heard on the protest. I mean, one of the things I find bizarre is the trans and all this who go round saying, "Oh, we support Palestine," and I think they genuinely believe that if they went there, they'd be welcomed. They'd be put to death. And in fact, we saw this support in summer. If you watch this summer one where they had a trans protest. I mean, they all acted stupidly, going, "Oh, there's some right wingers." I mean, there was no need for it. But anyway, we went there to film it, just to film the talk. It was simply because a lot of them were in the air anyway. They'd come down from all over the country and were staying over, so it was just extra footage. Now, what was bizarre was, and I don't think they'd realised this when they were there, they were waving the Palestinian flags and stuff, and I think the day before at the protest, all the pro-Palestinians were saying, "Oh yeah, support these people." Do you know how many went? 0. There was a few socialists I saw, but none of the, none of the pro-Palestinian lot, as in, the Muslims, etc. It was just a few of the socialists. I think about 3 people out of a group of hundreds. 0 support. So they talk. It's a lie when they say. I'd argue it's a lie, or in my opinion, it's a lie when they say they're supportive of the trans movement. And in fact, you probably heard a few. As I've been filming, they say we don't want them here. I mean, it's a bizarre notion. I mean, honestly, what do they think they are? They're going to, if they go around with a hate group saying, "Oh, kill the Jews," but, if you kill the Jews, will you like us? No, you'll be the next lot. I mean, honestly, the stupidity of support, it's fine to support pro-Palestinian, but don't convince yourself they're going to want you with them. They hate you. If you're gay, trans, or whatever, you're the enemy to them. Now, it's perfectly acceptable if you want to support them, but don't sort of drag yourself into this belief that they're ever going to want you alive. Once they've killed the Jews, which this hate group have said that, when you're shouting final one solution, that's a reference to the final solution. So, do you think when they're popping the Jews, executing them, do you think because you're kissing up, you won't be next? Of course you are. What a ridiculous thing. And, I mean, it's, again, you can believe what you want, but come on. Believing that just because you kiss up to these people, and and a lot of, anyway. I mean, one thing you realise is there's a lot of people who go because they've got no friends, and they think this is the way to make friends, but we've seen it, they don't seem to be friends. The Leeds lot don't, anyway. There's no friendship with each other. It's, there's this sort of, well, I suppose it's because what they don't realise is there's people in that group who aren't with them. They're actually stating things, spies as it were. But I ain't telling them who they are. I know who it is. There's a few in it. Leave them to it. It's nothing to do with me. But that's why I think they don't trust each other as well, because there are people in there who are, well, it don't bother me. I'm not bothered. It's, I've like I said, I've had enough. But yeah, so maybe in 2025 you might not see me do these protests. I just started to explain my thoughts and what I'm up to. I don't think I'll be, I mean, like at the moment, I did Manchester last two just because of the atmosphere, but even Manchester was pretty. I was expecting the Saturday quite busy. Okay, it was raining, but it was depressing. And in fact, my mate said this. She said, film the guys who the ones that the class as the homeless or crackers or whatever, the ones on the streets. But I don't feel comfortable doing that. And I walked past them. And in fact, what was interesting was, I walked past, and this must have been a day or two before Charlie Veitch went, and somebody died, and I walked past that spot. And as I walked past, I saw the guy who you see normally in a wheelchair. And I thought, I'm not filming this. It was an uncomfortable sight to see. I mean, shame on the council that they're allowing people like this to live like this. I mean, again, this is, when people bang on about Labour, so I can hear something in the background. When people bang on about Labour pretending to be kind, I just think it's as phony as anything, because, Manchester's supposed to be this Labour area, and yet look at, this is the way they let people live. That's not kindness. Don't fall for this. This is why, hang on, wondered what that is. Is it a fox, or is it some kids screaming? Can hear a noise. Might be it could be a fox or an owl. Might hear it better on this if it picks it up. But when you see Labour taking money away from the pensioners, and then WASPy and all this and every other thing, and I say to people, what do you expect? These are the same Labour people who've been charging poor people to drive cars that, because they're old, the cars are old, into air zones, and then if you go 31 in a 30 zone, these are the same councils that'll send you poor people £100 plus fines. And there are people that are actually going to, because this is the point. People go on about food banks and point out, the reason they're going to food banks is because the Labour councils keep taking money off them in fines. They haven't got anything. This is how sick. So I don't expect anything from Labour people except cruelty and to look after themselves. Like the West Yorkshire mayoress who's got in, and I think, was it 20% of the registered voters? It was nothing, and yet she's on 100k buzzing, and she got a mate in, don't forget. I don't think anyone actually elected a mate, and she's on about 80 grand or something. They look after themselves, jobs for the boys. That's why they're wanting to create more and more of these mayor things, because it tends to be Labour sneak in, and it gives them all nice jobs and power. And when we hear, and in fact, I mean, what's interesting was, the reason why they're doing this mayor thing as well is so they can put the elections off, and they're trying to pretend it's for your benefit. It's cobblers, I mean. And by the way, all that's going to happen, and this is what's going to happen because of these protests. People are going to vote for the party that says we'll reintroduce pensions, winter fuel allowance, waspy women, and we'll get rid of all these idiots on, protesters who are abusing everyone. They'll keep, if you can be fair and keep the ones that aren't being abusive, the real protesters. But unfortunately, like the Leeds lot, you've got basically a hate group, and that's how it's going to be. I mean, I'm not and I'd never support reform. Not my party. I said it. If I was going to vote, it'd be the Green Party, although they've gone stupid. I won't vote for them now. They're just trying to be Labour clones. Pointless, in my view. But anyway, everyone's just going to vote. I mean, you can see what's going to happen. Everyone will vote reform in the by-elections. That's why Labour are panicking. I mean, I think I can see Labour being out of power permanently. But they're not bothered. You see, if they cared about their own party, they'd be going, we need a new leader. But they're all kissing ass, going, oh, licky, licky, licky. I see them all on Twitter saying, oh, isn't it marvellous? Oh, marvellous, marvellous. They're more interested in looking after their own selves. They're not interested in the party or the people. It's embarrassing. Well, it's not embarrassing, is it? I think it just shows a lot of these Labour MPs what they're really like. It's about looking after themselves, kissing ass, brown nosing. Look at me, aren't I a nice brown noser? And again, the people that still support this Labour lot, who are they? Middle class people are well off, who couldn't care less about working class people. They don't care if pensioners freeze to death. They just want to sound nice on social media. Look at me, I still support Labour. Give them time. Gosh, aren't I a nice person? Oh, you're a horrible person. Whenever I see anyone now supporting Labour, it's fairly obvious that, I can guarantee it, in 99% of the time they're middle class, left wing, quite well off, don't give a rat's ass about anyone else. It's all about image, all about looking like they're nice people, fake as anything. In fact, I had this ding-dong with a bloke the other day who was as thick as anything, but thought it was being a clever so-and-so because he was one of these lefties who's too thick to understand that. If you're left-wing, you should be supporting the farmers. But it's too thick because he thinks when the farm, and he literally did this. It was this burqa in a non-medical grade mask. But I asked him, and he clearly didn't know what a medical grade mask was. It wasn't even fit correctly. It just looked like a bit of tat with gaps all over. Medical grade is N95 or N99. This was clearly nowhere near, and he was still allowed to see it as a profile pic to try and make himself look good. And he was saying anyone who replies is usually anti-vax and pro-reform or something. And I went in straight in and stupid can't write a sentence. So I went straight and said, well, first of all, I'm dyslexic, so if you want to mock me for that, go ahead. Secondly, you're wearing a non-medical grade mask, and that doesn't make me anti-mask. It's actually the BBC stated if you wear one, this was a report ages ago, it does nothing for you. So, and the one you've got doesn't even fit you. It's got gaps in. So, sorry, I know a bit about that. And then I said, well, if you're really pro-farmers, can you tell me how a farmer who makes £1,000 a year profit can pay this tax? And he started going, and he started going, but the money, and it was on about people, the land value. He says, yeah, the land actually has zero value unless you sell it. I can give you land worth 50 billion. Unless you sell it, it's worthless to you because you're not going to make any money. There's no money in it. And I was trying to justify it. He said, oh, they can't pay it. And I said, well, explain how, because you're the clever so-and-so. In the end, he couldn't. It just started coming out with rubbish. First, he mocked me for my spelling. And I said, well, I've already covered that because I says I'm dyslexic. So if you had a brain, you wouldn't have to embarrass yourself. He just couldn't do it. Then he started saying, well, what they could do is just give the farms to the family before they die. And I'm going, well, then you're just arguing about tax avoidance, which, for a left-wing person who's a socialist, isn't that what you're against? And if you're saying that's possible, then the whole scheme is pointless. You're now arguing about a scheme that has no value, because you're saying, you've already said there's ways around it, but obviously, that only applies if the farmer lives X amount of years once he's done it. If he dies a few months later, I think the pet kids still have to pay that tax. So it was just, these people are as thick as they come. But anyway, what a waffle I've done today. But still. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I shouldn't. I know I should do this. If you can, press the subscribe button. It helps. You don't get notifications unless you want them. I think you have to press that separately. So just press subscribe. You won't even notice. Won't affect anything. And if you can, make a comment. I think that's the you know, it does help if you press comments. Even if you say, you know, you think that what I've said is a lot of rubbish, post it. Oh, by the way, I keep getting people saying that I'm deleting messages as if I'm sitting there at 2 a.m. deleting them. I'm not. If you write certain buzzwords, I think YouTube don't include it. So if you see messages aren't there, just repost and I'm just walking past some. Anyway, just repost but change the wording. You just have to be careful not to get caught out. But I don't delete anything. I couldn't care less. The only thing I'd ever delete is if you decide, which I have done. I think I've only ever deleted two, which was somebody posted somebody's address of somebody who assaulted me. I won't go into, you know, like, you know, these thugs, they might play that game posting my details, but I don't. I'm not a thug like them. I don't want them, you know, because even if they're thugs and morons, I don't want them any harm coming to them. Because there'll be people out there who might think they should take the law into their own hands. No, you know, they're made fools themselves. Like usually, I mean, it's like, oh, by the way, that was the other thing, the you know, NHS thing. Apparently, there was some of them were NHS staff. Well, you know, they behaved appallingly, didn't they, the other day? Absolutely disgusting. That woman who assaulted me. I mean, she has damaged the gimbal, by the way. Will she hand over money? No, she'll be an arrogant, horrible woman. And she came across and everyone said it. What a horrible woman. I hope she isn't in the NHS because if she is, you know, I wouldn't want to be looked after by her, would you? So that's the sort of mentality she's got for the humans. But I mean, they were aggressive, horrible. And again, what was the point? This was a media event. How ridiculous. They were even blocking the BBC camera. They're thick, stupid people, some of these people are. Just aggressive, unpleasant, not nice. You know, again, if they want, anyway, it's up to them. I mean, I don't understand why, you know, by the way, the protests don't make sense because if you was anti-war, why wouldn't you do an anti-war demonstration? Why wouldn't you include, you know, why wouldn't you condemn Hamas and what they did? That doesn't make sense. You know, it seems to, when they're doing these pro-Palestinian things, it's the question is what's this protest about? Is it about Palestine? It doesn't seem to be generally. Is it about stopping the war? They hardly mention it. And the pictures they show look like they've been generated by AI. They look very artificial. I mean, they might be real, but there's something about the pictures and videos I see. They're very artificial looking. There's something not right about them. And is it about hating the Jews? Well, you know, the fact that make stewards have been declared the hatred of Jews and assaulted Jews stewards, I think it's obvious now what the Leeds one's about. I mean, you can't. In fact, the fact that this last Saturday they walked around and shouted and the enjoyment of saying the you know what was it, the only solution as a reference to the final solution. I think that obvious. Anyway. Oh dear. Well, we've had a little chat there, haven't we? Got stuff off my chest. There's probably a lot of stuff I meant to say. As I say, if I'm not sure, I think 2025 you'll probably find I'm not doing these protests. Might even quit now. I might go to the odd one if News Now Yorkshire Marty asked me to back them up because, you know, people are making up stories and, you know, police seem to back up anything. You know, they can say what they want and the police will react. If we get assaulted in front of the police, nothing. You know, I mean, you know, the fact that the ones who assaulted us at the university nothing's happened. Well, that was a serious assault. I think there was theft and all sorts of damage to equipment. Just shows. I mean, you know, it's the police. Look, it's up to them. It's up to them, isn't it, folks, if this is what they want to do, pretend. It's all cobble. I mean, do I believe they're looking into things? Forget that. You know, it's a case of let's forget about it. In fact, I mean, there was something else happened and was told the police actually dismissed it. And now they're having to, I don't know if they're, I'll be honest. You know, this two-tier thing, well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's why I've said to people, it's not that, you know, I've got to a stage I don't believe in reporting things now. I just accept that that's what's going to happen. And it's depressing, but anyway, we'll leave it there. Have had a rant, make some comments. It'd be handy. People don't make enough comments. You usually get one or two at most. I should engage more. You know, post away. Post your thoughts. Tell me what you want me to do. Film. And if there are any events coming up, let me know. I keep looking on the news. The trouble is, they usually happen once you know, it don't really go in the press until after it's happened. Anyway. Oh well. As I say, hopefully you're having a good day. I don't know when this will go up. Still. Hey ho, as I say. Anyway, folks, we'll leave it there. I've had a little rant. Get stuff off my chest. Don't think there's any other news. There's probably been other things I should mention, but can't be bothered. As I say, press the subscribe button, 'cause it helps. If you disagree with me, you see, people, you know, don't just say I'm telling fibs or I've got stuff wrong. If you think I've done something wrong, tell me. I mean, I keep telling people keep posting saying, oh, you're removing this. I keep saying, well, what is it you claim I've said wrong? It's like that Novo lot. I think it was them. Was it them who claimed I said something in the live feed or someone? Or it might have been the student newspaper. One of them said that I was saying lies or something in the live feed. Didn't say what the lies were. It's easy to accuse me of stuff. Give me evidence. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Bye.